Gonna have to get creative with heard it here with Swanee and half hour because this was a request by our next guest who joins us right now out in Bismarck, North Dakota. Secretary of State Michael Howe joining after his live. Secretary Howe, welcome back. How you been?
Tyler, I'm great. That thunderstruck has me pumped up for 24 hours from right now. Season openers are always exciting, but an historic day tomorrow too for the
Yeah,
first FBS game. So I'm
I
I'm
know.
I'm pumped.
Feels good. Something I've been waiting for
Yeah.
this jump, and I know the stars had to align. Somebody had to make a phone call. It didn't happen until just recently, and I'm glad that we answered. And we'll be following along with that. We're going to talk a little bit more about that season in just a little bit. I want to have you on because I don't envy your job right now when it comes to preparing for a midterm election. I see when I had reached out to you earlier this week, I know that you were doing some trainings, and at that moment in time, judges had lifted a block on any changes potentially to mail in voting. And now today, that block is back on. So as my head is spinning around, I can only imagine how it is for you preparing, or is that just an assumption that I have?
No, it's a lot to keep track of, and it's a lot for the public to keep track of. I pay attention to this. It's my job. The people have elected me to pay attention to this stuff, and it's hard for us to keep track of it all too. So I sympathize for the voters. Uh, you're exactly right. 2 days ago it was a little uncertain as we're here now today. Um, Vote by mail and absentee voting in the state of North Dakota will remain as it is, which is a secure process, an accurate process, and available to any qualified elector of the state of North Dakota. And they can be confident that that ballot will be counted accurately, securely, and in a timely fashion. And so we had our 6 regional trainings across the state of North Dakota over the last 2 weeks. And that was our guidance to our phenomenal county election officials and their staff. Until they hear otherwise, business as usual. And they're prepared and ready to offer a vote by mail option, an in-person early voting option if that county chooses to do so. And of course, there'll be the smiling faces there welcoming you to the polling location on November 3rd.
I anticipate there's got to be prepared conversations that, hey, I mean, who knows? We got a couple months that maybe a judge all of a sudden lifts this block again because there's lawsuits that are pending. What would change if what the administration wants done through the United States Postal Service? What are the changes that you're preparing for just in case?
Well, that's really tough to say, Tyler. I
Oh.
know that's not the best answer, but we are. The reality is we're 27 days away from absentee ballots going out, and I see the U.S. Postal Service rule that now has a stay on it requires a specific barcode on the mail ballot envelope. Well, those who have voted by mail in North Dakota understand there is a barcode on that ballot already that we utilize. But this specific barcode is a new technology that many states do not have, and certainly we don't have in the state of North Dakota. So that's a challenge. That's a cost also to the state. That's a different method for the counties to utilize. I admire and thank our folks at the United States Postal Service. I think everyone is aware they're going through some tough challenges. Talking to folks in the northwest part of the state, sometimes it takes 2 weeks for a piece of mail to be delivered. They're not election administration experts, with all due respect to them. And they're not receiving training from the state of North Dakota. We've got qualified, willing, and able county election officials doing this work who have done this work spectacularly for decades. And so I don't feel that this really solves anything. In North Dakota, you have to be a resident of the state. You have to be a citizen of the United States. You have to have an ID. That ID also proves your United States citizenship. You have to have an ID and that proof of citizenship through all forms of voting, whether that's in person on election day, in person early voting, and yes, even through the mail. So our counties have that check that you are a qualified elector of the state of North Dakota. And I hesitate to hand that over to amateurs in the election world at the United States Postal Service here in North Dakota.
Well, I admire the fact that you're saying that, and there's nothing taken away from the Postal Service.
No, absolutely not.
It's exactly. I mean, they're not trained. They didn't go into this line of work to be election officials. They just are out there delivering those parcels to people because that's how it's always been, and hopefully it will continue to be. Depending on some of the financial situation, but to add that extra layer of bureaucracy from the federal government on state-administered elections makes absolutely no sense.
I agree with you, Tyler. You won't find any disagreement from me.
When it comes to these trainings, it seems as though over the last several years, it's been a little bit more difficult to find people who want to work elections. Are we struggling to find people to do that this election?
Well, there's two tiers to that. Each county runs the election in their county. And so this is typically the auditor that's elected or appointed in that county, or Cass County, where you got Tyler, the finance director handles that duty. And then they have a team within their county office. And we've had a lot of turnover in the last, my 3.5 years as Secretary of State, new folks taking on that role. So that presents a challenge for us at the state level. Practice makes perfect, or experience, I think. I learned by doing, and I think a lot of election officials do as well. So getting those folks, through the primary, again, doing some training again between the primary and the general is one step. But yeah, certainly North Dakota needs 3,000 poll workers, just normal citizens, to assist in running a statewide election. And Tyler, with you vote in person, or your listeners who vote in person, the people that are working the polls are friendly, they're happy, but the majority of them are getting older. And so we're going to need new folks to fulfill that role and step up. So I encourage anyone who has any interest in the democracy business, reach out to your county election official. You can go to our website. There's a form there, and we'll get your name forwarded to the appropriate county. But we need you. This is a team effort to have democracy and have free, fair elections in the state of North Dakota.
Our guest right now is North Dakota Secretary of State Michael Howe, and there has been some back and forth. Yeah, it's not just the United States Postal Service that has been wanting more involvement in states' administration. You've had the Department of Justice that has been seeking voter files as well. Minnesota, I know that was part of the negotiation tactics when it came to some of their Operation Metro Surge. I saw just recently Alaska had complied to say, yep, here's the files. Have you given North Dakota's voter files to the federal government?
The federal government hasn't asked for them, Tyler.
Okay.
And North Dakota's a bit unique. We don't have, I'm using air quotes here, voter rolls as like the other 49 states do, because we do not have voter registration. We have our central voter file, which are people who have a North Dakota ID, who had a North Dakota ID, even people that are deceased, but they're marked deceased in our central voter file. It has people that are incarcerated, but it's marked incarcerated in that central voter file. So we don't have the traditional voter roll per se like the other 49 states, but we do have a central voter file. And this is where it's unique. Our office has access to that, but so does the Department of Transportation. Mm-hmm. The Department of Transportation is a cabinet agency of the governor. And I've talked to Governor Armstrong about this scenario. I said, what do we do if the Department of Justice reaches out? I'm not particularly comfortable with that. I said, and you have a role to play in this, Governor, because this is one of your cabinet agencies, too, that has this data. And I don't want to speak for the governor, but again, and you can have him on and ask him directly if this, play this scenario out. But I don't foresee that happening in the state of North Dakota.
Well, and we just had the governor on, I think it was on Monday, and I told him, hey, guess what? You guys have that special session next week, and I'll be making the drive out there. So I'll do that because I knew that it was unique, but it's a question that I keep getting ever since other states have complied. And I'm like, well, I'm going to have the Secretary of State on. I'll ask him. You can listen to his response right there, and I appreciate that. When it comes to the preparedness, obviously you've been doing the trainings. What else do people need to know before I let you go on this Friday afternoon?
I mean, election season's here. Like I said, absentee ballots go out in 27 days. You can apply for that absentee ballot at any time. You can do that right now as we speak. at swest.indy.gov or contacting your county office. But have a plan. Make a plan. Make sure your ID is up to date. Understand where your polling locations are. Look to find out if your county offers in-person early vote. Tyler, midterm elections in North Dakota, we average about 43, 44% turnout. That means nearly 60% of folks sit at home and don't determine who your next member of Congress is, who your next attorney general is, who your next secretary of state can be. Participate in the process. Get involved. Again, democracy is a team sport, and we need people to show up at the polls to have a representative voice of how the people of North Dakota actually feel.
Secretary, I'm glad we could get this in this week because it's been that on again, off again thing, and I know that you were training, so we pushed this to Friday, and I'm glad on a Friday afternoon you're able to join us. You take care until next time, all right?
You bet. We'll see you, Tyler. Go Bison.
This is North Dakota Secretary of State Michael Howe. We'll talk a little bit about the Bison. Josh Swanson is in the building. We're going to pull him in and get you ready for Heard It Here with Swanee. You can catch that on Saturday mornings on 740 The Fan, and, of course, kickoff tomorrow afternoon. And we'll tell you where you can actually consume the game. That's going to be one of those things that people are going to have to make some adjustments. It's not going to be on the same channel every single week, not at the same time. Meaning that 2:30 kickoff, that was typically at the exact same time at the Fargo Dome. There's changes coming, and I'm excited for it. Get you a weather update from Too Tall Tom Schmancy. We'll come back and round out the first hour of Afternoons Live next.